Well, hi, everybody. I am Bishop Durrell Watkins. I'm the senior minister of the Sunshine Cathedral. I'm an auxiliary bishop of the Global Justice Institute. I am the current president of the Divine Science Federation and the dean of the Samaritan Institute. Now, Bishop Talk is usually led by Bishop Robert Griffin. I get to be his little co-pilot, but today I'm actually taking over the flight because he is on the panel. He is actually one of the guests, and he couldn't introduce himself and talk to himself, so he enlisted my voice. And voices is what today's show is about, because we're in Pride Month, and we are actually going to be taking a look at queer Black religious voices here in Pride Month. Those are voices that are sometimes not heard, not paid attention to, not known about, and we're going to do what we can to correct that tonight. So we have an amazing panel. We'll ask them to self-introduce. That way, from the beginning, you hear their voice about who they are, what they do, what they're about. And let's start with Pastor Keisha. Please just tell us something about yourself, something you want everybody to know about you and your ministry.
Okay. Good evening. I am Senior Pastor Lakeisha Green, the pastor of Faith and Love Empowerment Center, and we are located in the beautiful city of North Lauderdale.
Excellent. We also have with us Ederick Johnson. He is, well, he'll tell you, but he's a Grand Master of Masonic Lodge, and that's sort of historic. He'll tell you why. Uh, he's in ministry. He's a community leader. He's a young person. We're hearing that young people aren't that religious anymore, but he's bucking that trend. So, Ederick, why don't you tell us about you and your leadership and what you've got going on in the community?
My name is Ederick Johnson. Not Grandmaster, not quite yet.
Oh, okay.
Grand equates the state. I serve as
Oh,
Worshipful Master of the
that's right.
best lodge there is in the nation, New Era Masonic Lodge number 69 here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where I'm so happy to be going on my fifth year this year. And I always tell people, one of the major starts for New Era. Sunshine Cathedral will always play a vital role in the history of New Era for simply always opening up your doors when
Yes.
many people in South Florida said no, you all said yes.
Now you are it's historic your lodge and tell everyone why. You're
Um,
unique in a certain way.
I am unique in a certain way, because in the years of Masonry, there has never been a openly openly Black gay person to be elected in that seat. And I know a lot of people, they don't like to speak on that. They don't like to equate sexuality with Masonry. But I always go back to the story of why do we celebrate President Obama? We
Mm.
celebrate President Obama for being the first Black president because we thought that in our struggle from God bringing us from the Middle Passage to this plantation, from the plantation to Reconstruction, from Reconstruction to Jim Crow, from Jim Crow to the Civil Rights Movement, from the Civil Rights Movement down to Rainbow Push, and we never thought that we would see a Black person in that office. So we celebrate that because of the struggle that took place. So the reason why, my community celebrates that because so many people who are like me, who are openly gay, have been shunned away from many lodges simply because of their sexuality. And for me not to not only become a member, but to sit in the highest seat of a local lodge, a lot of people would have never thought that would even be possible. And not only to be elected, but for it to be publicized the way it was. But I always tell people, that's I always tell people that yes, that happened, but New Era is not, what people, a gay lodge or anything like. We are open to all freeborn men, no matter of your sexuality, no matter of your religion, no matter of your color. We see person. That's what it's all about.
And then, of course, we have Bishop Robert Griffin. He is the executive minister of the Sunshine Cathedral. He's also my husband. Bishop Honeyboo, why don't you tell us about you and your ministry and your vision for tonight's show, in fact?
Well, I think you just gave most of my introduction already about
You
what
got more. You got
I
more.
am and what I do. But I've been in ministry since 1984, and I was raised in the missionary Baptist church. Did time as a military person in the United States Navy, as a veteran, working in the chaplain's office there. I'm a church planter. I planted a church in a little town called Hagerstown, Maryland, when I lived in that area, and seminary at the Episcopal Divinity School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Have my doctorate from the Florida Center for Theological Studies here in Miami, and currently serve as executive minister at the Sunshine Cathedral, auxiliary bishop with the Global Justice Institute. My work and my years of ministry have literally taken me around the globe and some unique places and unique opportunities to do ministry. And as Honey Boo Boo Bishop said, my vision for this evening of this particular program, focusing on queer Black religious voices in our community or communities, is because one thing I sense is that people know that we are here. We come sometimes get mushed into the background of the multiple voices, and I think this is an opportunity to call out voices to say we're here. And we are leading various organizations that are important, or we are part of organizations that are important, and we contribute to the whole, not just a part. And so I
Mm,
think contributing to the whole of who we are as part of the LGBTQ plus community in our individual places or in our organization speaks volumes also to the journey by which we have traveled to get to where we are today. And as I was listening to Ederick lay out that timeline of how we got some places, a lot of the times we've arrived at these places not by easy steps or easy path. And it's taken some of us the kind of above and beyond to get to where we are today, to overcome racism or sexism or all these other things to get here. But that's who I am, and that's just what I do. So
right, right. Stony the road you trod, huh? Um, the I've got several questions. Let's just get right to it. And all I have is questions. And I just want to point that out. This is a conversation uh, amongst Black leaders. It is about Black leadership, Black voices, Black histories, Black vision. I even had to be persuaded to even ask these questions because I'm very uncomfortable with uh, with people assuming a place that they haven't been offered. A lot of times, people from their sense of privilege just assume they belong everywhere and that they can say anything to anybody. And sometimes, what we need to do from our various positions, especially when we're uh, interacting with different communities, is ask questions and listen. Sometimes just listen without even asking the question. So I'm hoping to model that today, that I'm going to ask questions and listen. My opinion is completely irrelevant to anything going on today, but I do want to hear, and I hope that that in itself is a word to somebody. Okay, let's start with Pastor Keisha. I want to ask you about, I don't know what your background was. It was Methodist, Pentecostal, Baptist, what it was, but how was your background different than your current experience as a woman leader, a lesbian leader, a Black leader? How You probably didn't grow up in the exact experiences that you're having today. So how is that different from how you came up to what you're doing today?
Okay. Well, my background is Baptist. Um, from the Baptist, I went over to what we call Church of God in Christ,
Mm,
introduced to um, Holy Spirit and Pentecostal, the noise and all that, and that attracted me. From there, being in the Pentecostal movement, I was say somewhat attracted to a evangelist, later to find out that I was being baited. So what happened, I went to my pastor and I told my pastor, hey, I am attracted to a woman. Why did I choose to do that? Right? So from that, I was silenced. meaning let me back a little bit. I sing, I direct choirs, I taught Bible study, Sunday school, played the drums, all of this. So I went to my pastor and I said, hey, listen, I have these feelings. I am attracted to a woman. And from that, I was silenced. And I was like, well, that does not sound like the God that I serve. Why would I be sat down? Number one, because the feelings that I have. And not only that, why would I be sat down on the giftings and the talents that he blessed me with? So I would say I may have pondered to stay, but in doing so, that did not sit well with me. So from that, I left the Pentecostal movement. I was residing in Palm Beach County, and from Palm Beach County, I found out about it was Freedom Tabernacle. Imogene Alvin had never heard about an affirming ministry, and so I just took a chance, went and worshiped there. Also visited Sunshine Cathedral as well. Then went back to Freedom. And then from there, I was like, I'm in heaven. I can be myself. I can worship. And then from there, some kind of way, Pastor Alvin was informed of all the gifts and the talents that I had by a former member. From there, it was my former wife, bless her, God bless her soul, Pastor Dallas Walker. We were attending Freedom Christian Tabernacle until then we started, I think they started phasing out. From there, we found another ministry up in Orlando. That was Oasis Ministries, Pastor Debrita Taylor, and at the time it was Elder Sue. So we were going back and forth every Sunday faithfully, Brother Ederick, just because we wanted to be in church. That's been my life, church, clubbing. They call me Green, like my last name. So we went back and forth to Orlando until our monies dried up. We couldn't get a hotel, couldn't get a car. It's like just everything just dried up on us. So one particular Saturday, I was sitting at our dinner table, and Pastor Dallas came over to me. She said, I feel led to start a ministry. And I looked, I was like, you said what? You feel what? I said, well, you go right ahead and you do that. I'm going to finish writing my papers because at the time I was finishing up my papers at Nova University where I received my master's in leadership. So she's like, well, I feel led to start a ministry. So I said, okay, well, we can do that. Mind you all, this was maybe like a Tuesday night. So, finally I asked her, when do you plan on doing this? We're going to start church Sunday. We're going to start church when? She said Sunday. I said, Sunday where? Right here in our home. So make a long story short, um, we started the ministry. Um, there was Fountain of Love Ministries. And then from there, the Lord blessed us. We started growing where we went from the house into our building. And the ministry was up and running until her demise, which was in August of 2020. From
Mhm.
there, after seeking even my brother's advice and other clergy members, because I was worried about the people, because coming from number one saying you all are going to hell, you don't have a right to serve God, God don't love you, you all are abomination, and the list can go on and on. Once again, I'm like, well, how can a God that is so awesome be such a cruel God as to what you are describing? So from that, Faith and Love Empowerment Center was birthed. We are going into our fourth year of ministry where I am, like I said, the senior pastor. And also, I forgot to, in my introduction, I'm also in the process of being elevated to overseer over evangelism. And that is going to be done under Bishop Keith McQueen, who is our overseer of Powerhouse Network. So that's a
That's
little
nowhere.
myself. Thank you.
Do you have like an address or a website or a Facebook that you want people to know about?
Yes, sir. Our address is, and thank you. Our address is that's 6043 Kimberly Boulevard, and that's Suite C and D. And we are in North Lauderdale, Florida. And then they can follow us on Facebook. We are Faith and Love Empowerment Center, and our website is currently in the process of being rebuilt.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Ederick, basically the same question for you. How, like, I don't know, maybe you were always groomed from the beginning to just do what you're doing, but a lot of people, especially queer people, they find their way. They're not offered a way, they find their way. How is what you're doing now different from how you started out? Uh, there you go.
Sure, it's Sicily. But no, Baptist, and I got to South Florida in August of 2011. I would never forget it. In March of 2011, the late Reverend Matt King Carter and his lovely wife, Patricia Carter, approached my grandmother and was like, "Your boy," and I'm right there, "Your boy needs to come to Florida Memorial University," and the rest is history. I got here, and very soon I start playing for a church, and then I then wound up in Overtown at, well, I won't say the church name, but a prominent church in Overtown where um, the pastor interviewed me. I'll never forget. Then the trustees and the church interviewed me to be their minister of music. And the pastor told me after the interview, he said, "I see the anointing over your life. And I not only want to be you to be our church minister of music, but I want to license you to preach. So therefore, on this particular Sunday, your first Sunday at the church, I want you to bring the message. And I know that you have a message and God was going to give you a message." And that he did. The message was delayed but not denied. And I served this church, and in the Baptist church, just because you give your child sermon, you don't get your license then and there. So it went on for almost 2 years, and then I'll never forget. One Sunday, called me in the office and he said, "I heard that you are a practicing homosexual." And my response to him was, I don't practice homosexuality. I mastered that years ago. Um, and I never forget, I continue to serve there. And then one Sunday I get to church, and before church starts, pulls me in the office and says, "Your services are no longer needed anymore. We cannot allow someone of your nature to serve in a capacity at our church." And it hurt me, it crushed me, because I know God called me. I was called. I was always told you're going to be a preacher, but I heard the call in 2009. And so in 2009, I heard the call. And in 2013, I gave my trial sermon. And after I was dismissed from the church, that's how I met Elder Keisha and her late wife. My godfather, Rick Rollins, said, "Well, there's a church that's looking for a musician. It will just give you something to do in the meantime." And I met Elder Keisha, and the rest is history. And that's where the church hurt really began. And make a long story short, I'm so happy that the first Sunday in 2023, the church that I played for in West Palm Beach, I was like, I'm going to leave that church. And I said, I really need a church home. And the church next to the church that I played for, Greater Antioch in West Palm Beach, the Lord led me there. It just, and I went every Sunday, then would sit in the back of the church, and I will converse with the pastor, and then I finally joined the church, and then the rest is history. I what Pastor Keisha said, she found a place that she was free. I found a place that I was free to be me. I was free to be Baptist and free to be me and worship in spirit and in my truth. And I'm so happy to say that, on August the 17th, I will give my trial sermon. And unlike other time, um, I'm open, I'm out, I am not ashamed, and I'm not lying. And I found a church that accepts me, embraces me, and love me for me because, I always tell people, if the God in me distracts you from seeing the gay in me, then you were never good for me. And that I'm okay with.
Bishop, you're older than everybody here, except me. Um, and so you've got a lot. You got a long history. The I've seen you take me to see your training, the church, your teaching church, and of course your family church just steps from your family home. And of course, we met in theology school, and you served chapels in the Navy. You started the Church of Maryland. Also helped start a worshiping community in Jamaica. And then, of course, you were just indispensable at Sunshine Cathedral. So you have a long journey. Uh, what prepared you most? I mean, you graduate school, military, church planning, church teaching, church experience, all of it. In fact, you started. Uh, Sometimes people forget to brag on themselves. So spousal privilege, I get to brag. That you were a senior in high school, working at a supermarket and going to college night school, all at the same time before you even joined the Navy. So a lot of experiences. What prepared you most, or maybe it's a combination, but what prepared, because you were indispensable, you were a world leader. What prepared you for that?
Well, first of all, I didn't realize how many Baptists I was going to have all these Baptist roots. And
Well, that's why you needed me. You needed one Episcopalian.
yeah, one
Okay. Now,
Episcopalian, one convert. But and I'm going to say the flavor of Baptist that I came out of was a missionary Baptist. And so, okay, so that whole missionarial standpoint, not to go out and convert people per se, but it was about taking the word out, the word of God, word of everything. And that whole setup in my little home church, Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, was a part, I think it was the foundation for all that I have become. And I would probably say the most foundation part of it, and I often talk about this, was my Sunday school class. I learned more in my Sunday school class about scripture, about understanding. The queer part came much later, but just that basic foundational stuff came out of my Sunday school class, out of the Broadman Bible Sunday School book. And I think the importance of that was like at that point of my understanding was that God loved everybody. And my flavor of baptism, like that, there was never that overtone of hate against anybody or anything like that. There was all this undertone of love, but you also knew there was one thing you didn't talk about. We didn't talk about it. The things we didn't talk about, but you just never said those things you couldn't talk about in the gay community because at that time, we didn't have gay folks around us. There was nobody who was gay. There was, of course, there was plethora of people around us. But I think my awareness and what really got me prepared for this was like there are the others that are out there, and I know that I'm one of the others. And so I think that part of, that the compelling thing was that got laid on my heart was we have to make room in a way for the others in our community that does not automatically naturally fit into my missionary Baptist system. My thing was I want to change the Baptist convention from inside out. Like, I'm not leaving. Y'all can't run me up out of here. I'm not going. We're going to change this thing from inside out. And then at some point, I said, you know what, God, this is not mine to change. This is not mine to change. And so I, began to look at other ways about how to incorporate my spirituality, my sexuality, and other places outside of it. But the thing that prepared me for all of that was that little country church that I will always have my roots into, that little Friendship Missionary Baptist Church that's on the hill, my training church in Troy, Alabama, Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. And those are the things that really just kind of impacted my life about what it meant to be part of community, but not just, but the Black community. Being a part of the Black church was very important.
Now, Robert, some of us could never pass. You know what I mean? Like bullies knew who we were before we knew who we were. But you're very sort of typically trans masculine. You were in the Navy. You had a girlfriend in high school for a minute. Uh, um, you could pass, but for some reason you just chose not to. You were relatively out in the military, and by the end, completely out.
Mm.
And so, why is it that? How is it that you could have had an easier time, but you chose to stand in your truth and tell people from almost the start? How you did you could have gotten away with things that some of us could never have gotten away with because you chose to to not take the sort of masculine privilege that you could have done, but you told the truth. Why is that?
Well, I think piece of when I left home in 1986 and I joined the military, and a year later in 1987, I tested HIV positive. And so I think a lot of that for me in the beginning was always find a way to be authentic to yourself. There was a black church closet, and then there was the HIV/AIDS positive closet, and then you had the military experience on top of that. I was in before Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So there was a lot to reconcile about me being who I was and wanting to be an example to my community and having to realize I have to be authentic and real to who I am and also live out to the person I'm called to be because I couldn't be in the closet with all of this. And I think that for me, being an example of who I was through my work demonstrated to everyone else at that time, it didn't matter about my sexuality. It was about my performance. It was about how I performed and what I did. And that kind of helped me inform how to then to later come out more publicly because at that point you didn't care about my sexuality, you cared about my performance. So my performance of everything else was always important to me, and the presentation was always important to me. And that was one thing about the military. It's like as long as you did well in your job, there was nothing else they could take away from me. And that's how I kind of present in life. As you do well, then you stand on your own good morals, your own good standards, and that's what you have to stand on. That was kind of a bedrock solid thing that my mom and dad taught me also. Stand on who you are and on your integrity. And integrity was always the most important thing that they raised me with. And that integrity is what got me through a lot of things because always be true to yourself.
Well, that leads me to you, Reverend Keisha, Pastor Keisha. Uh, it is no secret that if you're in a marginalized community or a minority community or a silenced community, you have to be 18 times better than anybody else just to get almost equal opportunity to even be seen, to be heard or whatever. And you're not only a member of a racial group, you're not only a member of a sexual minority, you're also a woman. So how many times have you had to be the best person in the room just for anyone to notice you were in the room?
Pretty much every time I go somewhere,
Mhm.
if that's safe to say.
Yeah.
Um, they're really, like I said in the beginning, I love church. And especially, Bishop and you all could relate. When we get to that low point, we want to go somewhere where we can be refilled. I love music as well. So I find myself a lot of times going over to the mainstream church. Um, and there for sure, all eyes are on me. So I'm to the point now, don't see me, see Jesus. And Ederick said something very profound. And I want you to even say that again about if the gay in me distracts whatever that statement was. So pretty much just at any time, I feel that I'm out of our community,
Hmm.
that's when I have to. Because you can see I'm not with the nails and the long hair and
Hmm.
the knot. I'm just free to be me. Either you
Hmm.
accept me or you don't.
Right. Yeah, you were talking about your master's degree and writing these papers, but still taking on this other responsibility. Is it ever exhausting to have to always be excellent? Because maybe there's an assumption from other communities that maybe you wouldn't be. Is it exhausting to always have to prove how great you are?
It is.
Yeah.
It can, is, yes, for sure. Yeah.
And so someone who's new, young, someone Edric's age or younger even, what advice can you give them? Like, oh yeah, this is a hard road. It's not fair. People are not right sometimes, but how can you encourage that person?
I was like, I have to do that all the time, especially with the church members. Just be you. Don't go anywhere where you have to be tolerated, but go where you are celebrated. So I'm just telling them all the time, it's free. It's okay for you to be who you are. Even my wife, she sometimes gets on me. Prime example, like if I'm in a restaurant and all eyes are going to be on me. So I have this thing when I feel people staring at me. God bless. How are you? How are you doing today?
Yeah.
So I just tell them, just do you, be true to who you are. Because not being true to who you are is so dangerous. It's dangerous,
Oh, yeah.
very dangerous.
And I know there are all 100,000 kinds of Baptists, and some value women in leadership, some don't. And I know the Church of God in Christ. We have a friend who's a leader or our former coaching leader. He's out, and so he's out. I mean, coaching, but he's now in another denomination. But his father was a bishop, and so his mother was a missionary. That they had sort of equal, but not the same roles for women. They didn't ordain women, and so. How did you, from those backgrounds, how did you decide, how did you know this is, I can do this, this is for me? God is not discriminating against me, so I don't care if they do. If you didn't have that model, how did you just know?
Well, it's very interesting for you to ask that question because I've always known that I was a leader, but I did not fully embrace the leadership until I came over into the inclusivity. Number one, just loving people and not wanting to treat people the way that I was treated.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very key. So I just did it. I told the people I'm practicing on y'all, and you don't even know that I'm practicing, practicing on you. So, but for sure, I do thank God for my wife, Executive Pastor Heather, who is walking this journey with me, and we're just doing what we do with the help of God, and even
Excellent.
such leaders as Dr. Robert and Minister Ederick, and even yourself. Because if I got a question, I'm gonna call you. If I don't know, I'm gonna call you, and then even my bishop as well.
Excellent. Yeah, golden rule Christians. God knows we need more of those.
Yes.
Um, in fact, isn't that the definition of a Christian? But anyway, Edric, so you came to go to an HBCU in Miami. You came to this sort of certainly regionally famous church, big church, an iconic pastor, all of this, and then you got your heart broken.
Oh,
Uh,
I wanted to clarify. I am here because of Matt King Carter, but I didn't join. I didn't. Mount Olive was not
you didn't
that
join the
church.
church. I see. I see.
I joined Mount Olive at a later time
Okay.
after this situation happened.
Okay.
Yes, I want to go on record for that. Yes, no,
Oh yeah.
yes, yeah.
No, and really an iconic, famous preacher. Really, he was really great. So, but then you were very disappointed, not from him, not from, but just from your circumstances where you had actually even been embraced, and then like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. I found it interesting when you said someone of your nature, that they even recognized it was nature, that it really was who you were, and still their hang up about it was more powerful than their acknowledgement of this is who you are. So so this is drummed into you. This is not right. This is, even if it is your nature, we can't stand it. God can't stand it. When and how did you overcome that? When did you know that they were wrong? Now, of course, eventually you could go to the library, you could find out the American Psychological Association, but usually that's not where we start. We have to have some sort of intuition or mentorship or something. How did you break free of all that? Now you've got community, now you've got all kinds of support. But in the beginning, it was something. What was it?
And knowing the word for myself. People will perish without the lack of knowledge and understanding. So if I was not grounded in His word, not man's word, but in His word, and study to show myself approved. If I was one of those, then yeah, it would have I'd have straight away. Now, did I get discouraged? Yeah, but I had to go back to that message that I preached at that church, delayed but not denied, and coming to the realization it just wasn't my time.
Hmm.
It was not my time. I look at that person that I was then, And I'm so grateful that I did not walk into that path prematurely. That's how I look at it. And now that I am at a ministry, I'm at a church that the pastor covers me, not only covers me, but disciplines me. I don't know if y'all recognize, but my Facebook posts ain't been wilding out these uh change, and it's okay. I that's, you can't want ministry, you can't want to be in ministry but afraid of discipline. No. So when Pastor, I saw that post, you probably want to rethink that. Or, my grandmother, who you all have met. Okay, minister of music, twerking, you know. But one thing I'm happy to say with my social media, that people see that I am human, and that you can have a what I call a balanced lifestyle. I can I can have church. I can, because the God in me attracts them. It's not me, but it's the God in me that those people are attracted to, and it will lead them to hopefully Christ. I use it as a form of evangelism.
Excellent. Bishop, yeah, I love that because you certainly have a balanced life. You enjoy you enjoy life. You're famous for your zillion olive martini. It's in fact it's almost not even it's not even a drink because it's really just a salad of olives and a little sprinkling of vodka over there. But it's you love life, and you certainly remind me of I think it's the Gospel of Luke where Jesus said, John John lived this very austere life. He called him a freak. I live out in the public and have a good time. You call me a drunkard. You people just will not be satisfied, and and that's true. Whatever you do, people are gonna say something about you, right? But so your colleagues here have talked about how they overcame uh, the lie that they were somehow beyond the reach of God's love, and of course you found that early. So you just found peace early. You're just such an evolved person anyway. And I may be biased, but that doesn't make me wrong. That you are so just centered and at peace and just like the wisest and most spiritually gifted person I know. But how did you go from, okay, this is okay, they're wrong and I'm okay? How did you go from that to celebrating? How did you go from that to, yeah, I'm putting my olive salad on the Facebook. I'm gonna dance at the wedding. I'm gonna tell this joke that's a little blue or whatever. How are never mean, never cruel, never hurt anybody, but also no shame, no guilt. Just that's you. You're you all the time. How did you get that? How did you get from I'm okay to I deserve to be celebrated? I'm something to celebrate. How did that happen?
Well, I think that's what I'm hearing. Like part of the theme of all three of us. Like it's all been a journey to how we got to where we are, and a part of that journey took into account of how I was raised. And for me, I think a part of it was the reconciliation of spirituality and sexuality, and realizing I can't be if I can't be in the closet about being gay, because the closet is the closet is soul killing. The closet will
Mhm.
just kill you. And not only just kill you as a sexual being or as a spiritual being, it could literally be the death of who you are. So for a part of me having to come out of that closet and experience would say, I have to live my life as integrated as I possibly can. And as being part of the integrated living, I also want my life to be part of, I live my life as an open book. This is who I am. If I can't do, if I had a friend of mine say, I can't do in public what I do in the club, and I can't do in the club what I do in public. And so my thing is, no, if I do it in the club, I'm going to do it in public. If I do it in public, I'm going to do it in club. And there's nothing that I can't do in all those places that I can't do in church on Sunday morning. So we got, that was part of being authentic, and also
Mhm.
in a respectful way that yeah, why am I going to talk about not drinking on Sunday morning and show my martini glass full of olives on the deck as soon as the benediction is given? That's not, that's just not
Yeah.
for me. That's being, let's be who we are. Let's be authentic and let's be real. Some of us can't twerk, so you won't see me twerking like Ederick on the Facebook. It ain't gonna happen. Some of us didn't get that rhythm. It ain't
Yeah.
gonna happen. But
I don't got it either.
but there's that part of saying I want to be fully integrated as possible because I think that also calls to people when they can see you living your life authentically and not having to segregate any part of your life out. That I only do this here, I only do this here, I only do this here. But to live an integrated life for me is a witness to those who are questioning themselves around sexuality, around spirituality, around what it means to be part of a faith community, that, yeah, you can be a part of a faith community being the authentic person that you are, because I get to bring all of who I am into the presence of God, all of it. And if God is okay with all of who I am, I don't care what you think.
Yeah. You're teaching somebody right now. Would you tell them? I mean, they're intrigued, they're fascinated, they're trying to really hold on to something. Would you tell them? Would you say? Is it fair to say if it's wrong in church, it's wrong, and if it's okay outside of church, it's okay? Like this dichotomy of church world is one world, club world is one world, family world is one world. That's part of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like do good wherever you are, avoid bad wherever you are, and then you just go everywhere.
yeah. And I
Is
think,
did I hear that
yeah,
correctly enough? Am I
yeah,
saying that?
yeah. I mean, I think that's part of being the authentic self. Being black is one thing, because that's one thing, one way you have to live because of how people already preconceived see you because of your blackness or because of my blackness. And that's one level of the lens that I already have to work through. The others are lenses that I have to bring out because it's all a part of being integrated. And you don't get to judge me just based on skin color. You get to judge me by how I live my life. And I want my life to be a witness to not just my skin color, but all of who I am. Because a lot of people stop at the skin and they start making these preconceived notions and preconceived judgments and preconceived ideas, and we got to get beyond that. And I think as religious queer leaders, it's part of our job to help people get beyond that and remain authentic to who we are.
There's a thing you always say. I think it's a song. But what do you say? This joy that I have. What is it?
The
To
joy
give
that
it
I have,
to
the
you.
world didn't give it, and the world can't take it away.
Can't take it away.
Excellent, excellent. Pastor Keisha.
Yes, sir.
A lot of times, it seems like we're trying to get a seat at the table. You know, maybe pull up a chair, maybe on the end, squeeze in on the corner or whatever. Um, should we continue doing that? Is that for all of our communities? Should we just try to keep trying to get at the table? Or maybe it's time, and I'm actually straight stealing this from Robert. He has said this a time or two. Or is it time to just set up new tables instead of trying to squeeze in some of our own tables and invite people to those? What do you think?
I believe that it's time for us to set up our own tables.
Mm.
Um, because number one, we already know that we are not welcome at everybody's table. Number two, we have to be sure as to who we are inviting to our table. Like I stated before, especially where I am now, I don't want anybody around me that's just tolerating me.
Mm.
You got to embrace all of this goodness
Mm.
that God has allowed you to come in contact with.
Yeah.
So I believe that it's time for us to set up our own tables. You know why? Because, like you said, we have tried to fit in, and it's on them that they're missing all of this greatness that God has afforded this world.
Mm. Mm.
And I had a question I was going to ask all of you, but I think you answered it along the way. I was going to ask if faith has been a comfort or an obstacle in your journey to full LGBTQ embracement and celebration and whatever. But I was surprised to hear that actually unless I've misheard, that actually faith was more helpful than in the way for each of you. I was so surprised to hear that. It seems like each of you said that faith is actually what got you through. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Excellent. And why is that? Do you think that the God of your understanding and experience was so good that doctrine and dogma couldn't tarnish that? What do you think that is?
Because I feel personally, if I may, I feel that me living in my truth allowed me to really know who God was. I never forget. Um, I was also Church of God Bishop and Mr. Ederick. I was also on the state praise team, and I remember I was at a convocation up in Orlando, and then just out of nowhere, this lady with her mean, cruel self, she came over to me and she said to me, she said, God would never use a lesbian. And, if I did not have faith and did not love God, because like I told you all before, church was all that I knew, you know. Um, if I did not have faith, and the strongness of knowing who God was for myself, that I could have, easily hit the streets. But Bishop D, because of my faith, it has allowed me to even grow and to become the woman of God that I am for this great community.
Can I translate what she just said a little bit?
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
On that day, she met Save Keisha.
right.
right.
On that, when that lady came in, she met Save Keisha.
Yes,
That's
sir.
good for her.
Yes,
That
sir.
was good for her.
Yes,
Otherwise, that would have been a
Well,
meeting in the ladies' room.
because that was abusive. She could have crushed someone's spirit with that mess.
right. Could have given me Pete's religious PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
which is what
Yes.
our community really suffers with,
Mm,
the
Yes.
spiritual abuse trauma.
mm,
But thank God that I know him for myself.
mm, mm.
Let me. Speaking of cruelty, um, trans people are straight up under attack right now,
Mhm.
and it seems that trans people of color get the worst of it. Trans Black women are killed in the dozens every single year, and um, and it seems like even within the LGBTQ plus community, we sometimes just ignore that or overlook it. We just want to take that on somehow, which is heartbreaking to me. What is your response? What would you say to the whole community about our trans siblings, the trans children of God?
Well, for sure, I have shown up for, our community, trans community, and God is so amazing. It's just like lately, I have been receiving our trans family at Faith and Love Empowerment Center. I had a young lady visit me one Sunday, and the second Sunday that she came back, she joined the ministry. And I just let them know, hey, there's a safe place. We are here for you. And we embrace all of you. We're not here to hurt you. Why? My thing is, why do I want to hurt anybody when I myself have been hurt?
Mm, mm, mm,
Why? Why would I do that? That to me is the strongest form of hypocrisy.
mm,
So pretty much what I have been doing is opening my arms. Hey, I'm here. I've even asked to have conversation. Um, Once again, I'm coming to you. Now, why can't you come to me so we can have conversation to see how we can meet some of your needs
mm, mm,
in the faith community? You know all the other stuff. Now bring all of you over into the faith community.
Mm,
mm,
yeah.
mm.
Ederick, do you have anything to add about that? I mean, because you probably meet people much younger than the others of us do. What is your observation of that for
I
trans
saw it when
friends?
I was working, when I worked with the health department, and I mysteriously became the interim government co-chair for TIA, the Transgender Advisor Group, as well as I became the interim transgender coordinator for the Florida Department of Health. And I always stated that that community, I always tell people this, you know, the most disrespected woman in America is a Black trans woman.
Mhm.
Mm,
and I do my best in showing up for them how not how I want to be showed up for, because that's our problem. We show up for people how we want to show up for them, but what I did was I asked them simply, how can I show up for you?
Yeah.
um Coming into your space, I recognize and I tell people that I'm simply an ally. It's so funny when people think of the LGBTQIA community, they think that we're united, but no, there's segregation within the LGBTQ community. I always tell people, when people think of Stonewall Parade, they think all they see is white men,
Mhm.
white men parading for Stonewall. That the face of Stonewall is white men. But when you look at the context, and the content and exegete the text of the
Mhm.
history of
Yeah.
Stonewall, you will find out that it wasn't white men, but it was black and brown women of trans experience
Mhm.
that made it possible for us to celebrate what we celebrate today.
Yeah.
And how we, one way of being there for them is speaking up for them in spaces when they're not present.
Right.
I gave Pastor Keisha this opportunity. Is there for the lodge or a ministry? Is there something you want to plug? A website or Facebook or Instagram? Something that so people can know more about what you do.
Yeah, so if you would like to know more about New Era, Masonic Lodge number 69, what the community calls, if you ever been to a event for New Era Missionary Baptist Church of God in Christ. But I tell people we worship at New Era. We believe in worship, and follow us on Facebook at New Era Lodge number 69. We have some amazing events coming up. We kick off St. John's Day weekend next week on Thursday with Juneteenth. We're hosting a Juneteenth free event at Snyder Park, and then join us for the official St. John's Day service on June the 21st at
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Yeah, 6 o'clock. Where none other than Elder Keisha will be our guest speaker. And what I always tell people, one thing that I love about New Era, I believe in platform, and we have had a variety of preachers grace New Era. And I believe in that. And every round goes higher and higher and higher. It all started off with Reverend Dr. Frank Kennedy, the executive pastor of Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, for the installation. And then from there, we've had so many preachers grace us. And I'm so happy to add to the roster and the fold Elder Keisha, with now Overseer Green, and she will be giving us homily on that day. And then we're also celebrating National HIV testing, where we will have some representative from Ujima Men's Collective to be with us. So, yeah, check us out on Facebook at New Era Lodge number 69.
Now, this is stunning to me, but we're out of time. We're at the end. It flew by. How did this happen? But I have one more, not really a question, it's more of a prompt, I guess. Um, and it'll be the same for each of you. Pastor, uh, almost immediately, Overseer Keisha Green, what is your prayer for the LGBTQ plus community?
Hmm.
My prayer is for our community to know that God really loves them. And number two, for them to get back to their roots and get past, and I know it takes work to get past the trauma, get past the hurt, all of the religious jabs, and just come back to the community, faith community, you know. And I'm just so happy that we even have this opportunity to even have this platform. So for sure, number one, to let them know that God really does love them for who they are.
Ederick, what is your prayer for the LGBTQ plus community?
I,
Snippet of what I wrote in my journal yesterday for the opening of Pride. God of love and light, I come to you with heart full of compassion and understanding, that my community may find the acceptance and support in their families, communities, and places of worship. May they be free from fear, from bondage, rejection, harm, and may they know their worth and dignity. Grant them the strength and resilience in the face of adversity, and may they find solace in love and support of those around them. May they be empowered to live authentically and unapologetically, and may their voices be heard and valued. I pray this to the God, the one who's able to keep us from falling, the one that created us all, without any hesitation and no problem. Amen.
And Bishop, we will you'll anchor the whole thing. I will remind people, sunshinecathedral.org. You can actually find, I don't know when exactly this program will go up. It'll be soon. But also there's other programs. Bishop Talk, this happens at least once a week, sometimes more. And you can find all of that at sunshinecathedral.org, along with other programming and worship and press releases, all kinds of. You can make prayer requests at sunshinecathedral.org. And I do want you to know that on Wednesday, June the 4th, there is an interfaith pride service at Sunshine Cathedral. It involves people from all over the community, religious traditions, worshiping communities, but all celebrating the LGBTQ plus children of God. Bishop Robert, what is your prayer for the LGBTQ plus community? And then you can take us out after that.
I think a piece of my prayer is for us to remember as Black folks that we have come from good stuff. We survived we survived the cruise over the slave ships. We survived the cruise ship, not under good terms or a good condition, but we survived the trip. And so I'm reminded that when we do what we do, we are standing on those who have gone before us, that provided a base for us to stand on and do what we do today. I was recently reminded that we were once counted as three-fifths of a person here in this country when it was counted back in the slave days and who had the right to own who and how much they could own someone. So my prayer is for us to be reminded of where we have come from, to be situated in the places where we can give voice to right now, and to always be an advocate for those who are yet to come. Somebody went before us that made it a little bit better for us to be who we are, to come out and to find ourselves. And I think that's a mantle that I pray we all pick up to make this world a little bit better for those who are yet to come, so that the tables we are now building, they will tear down and build better tables. And that's my prayer.
Thank you so much. It has been a real honor to be able to facilitate this. I was a little hesitant to do it because it's not my experience, it's not my history. What can I add? But it was a joy and an honor to be able to ask these questions and to hear these stories. And so, thank you for letting me participate. And I believe there's going to be another round of this next week. Different guests, same talk. So this conversation is too big for just one time. So there'll be different guests, but the same conversation. So be looking forward to that. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being interested in all of these ministries. And we hope to see you throughout Pride. God bless you.